Hey peeps, how's everybody going? I hope you're all reading my oh so clever tweets. Yeah, who fell? If you haven't read my latest post, the one where I show my predictions about Hillary Clinton's health, the first one back in December of 2015, I thought I talked about it earlier than that, but apparently not. I couldn't find it. If anybody sees if you Google something where I mentioned it earlier than the end of December 2015, let me know. Oh, this is my workout shirt. I just got back from the gym. I shaved it a little bit. Stop what? Would Trump beat Biden? We'll never have to know. Actually, I'm not really drinking coffee right now. Godzilla died today. Oh, it's probably the fifth cup, yeah. Do I think it's over? It's definitely over for Clinton. So here's the questions that I'm expecting the media to ask as soon as Clinton comes back on board. One is if her staff knew that she had been diagnosed with pneumonia, and based on the pictures, it looks like her doctor was actually on her elbow when the shit went down. So why do you think they said the problem that she was overheated when she had been diagnosed with pneumonia, and pneumonia apparently causes those symptoms? And her doctor is actually there at the time of the incident. Now, I think the press has to ask that question because isn't she lying about her health problems? And I think there may be some calculated politics in this. Since pneumonia can be a standalone thing, she can say, hey, I got a little pneumonia, people get it, I took some antibiotics, I'll be fine. But pneumonia could also be, aspirational pneumonia from Parkinson's, as people have mentioned. I don't know, aspiration pneumonia, yeah. So this is just pure conspiracy theory talk, by the way. This is not a prediction, and you should put no credibility on this. I'm just walking through it. If I were the media trying to figure out what questions to ask, I would say, why didn't you just say pneumonia in the first place? Because the only reason I can think of for not saying pneumonia is that you don't want people to ask questions like, is it related to another condition? Because it's sort of like the lawyer who knows if they open up a line of questioning, it allows the other side to ask similar questions and it expands the inquiry. So probably for a few minutes, they thought to themselves, I'll just say she's overheated. And I imagine there was some point where the doctor said, oh, wait a minute. I'm a medical professional. I'm not a politician. And if you say it's something that I don't agree with, I have to walk around in public with people asking me this for the rest of my life. So how about fuck you? I'm not going to support anything that isn't medically true. So I got a feeling that conversation happened. Don't you think so? Don't you think the political people were saying to the doctor, all right, what can we say that's the least dangerous sounding thing? And the doctor saying some version of, I'm only going to tell you what it is. If you're going to change it to something else, just know that I'm going to come right behind you and say, no, I'm the doctor and they're lying. So I got a feeling that even if you're Hillary Clinton's doctor, even if you really want her to win, no matter what you're thinking about this situation, if you're the doctor and you're such a good doctor that you're a potential president's doctor, you're not going to put yourself out there to be the liar who just lied to put somebody in office. So I've got a feeling there was this tense conversation between Clinton aides and the doctor about what the hell to call this thing. And my guess is that pneumonia was the compromise. Compromise meaning that the doctor could say it's pneumonia and that's a complete truth, but can also leave out, hypothetically, if there was some other condition such as Parkinson's that was causing the pneumonia. And by the way, I'm not saying that's the case, so I'm only just walking through what the public will think of it and what questions should be asked. You know, when Bush vomited or passed out or got sick, Bush Sr., the reason that that didn't end him is that he was generally thought to be a very healthy person. So he was unusually healthy. So when someone who is known to be unusually healthy, you know, his weight was good, I think he exercised, played tennis all the time. So when somebody like that gets sick, you just think, you know, it's temporary. The photo op with the child. Is any of this stuff contagious? Can you be contagious with pneumonia 2 days after the after you get the diagnosis? Probably not, right? Nobody is going to replace her, because I don't think she's going to die, and I think she'll be healthy enough to do some of the events, which is probably all she needs to do to say that, you know, she's the first woman to get that close. I mean, for all practical purposes, I think Clinton has already shattered the glass ceiling, in the sense that nobody's saying the problem is that she's a woman. You know, nobody's saying that that's somehow a disadvantage. I mean, I don't hear that. I don't even hear that privately. And privately, people would just say the worst things to me. So I don't think there's a second grader in the country who, if you ask them, can a woman be president, I think they would think it was a trick question. I think they would just say, of course. Why are you even asking me that question? Yeah, let's talk about that alleged metal thing that allegedly dropped down of her leg. So I saw the video and it just looked like a lozenge. And I don't know where anybody gets the idea that it was metal. I don't think you'd be able to hear it on that grainy video from a distance. It clinks. See, I don't believe it clinks. Probably sunglasses. Wasn't it sort of a roundish metal thing about the size of a lozenge? You cannot tell it was metal on that video. Yeah, you know, there may have been a coincidental clink, but I don't think it was metal. And what would it be if it were metal? No, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that there was some mysterious metal object. It looks 6 inches long to me. I looked at it once and it just looked like a small plastic thing. Leg brace thing. Do you think she has now that would be interesting. Do you think she has a leg brace to keep her up? I was trying to engineer some kind of a tweet that played off the fact that when you're on, prescription meds, it messes with your system. So it was some kind of like a metallic turd, but I couldn't really engineer a tweet that worked there. Did someone pick it up? Well, we could eliminate the turd option if somebody picked it up and put it in their pocket. Did you hear about a body double? Yeah, I saw the pictures of the alleged body double, and they're not different enough that they look like a body double to me. So I think there's zero chance of that. By the way, speaking of turds, I had an idea for what I called Turd College, which is the things that you read while you're on the toilet. So Turd College, the classes would be only a few minutes long, or just whatever you need to do your business in there. But you should have an actual class syllabus that's designed to be consumed in, half chapter sizes, so that you've got, you can actually just line your books up and work yourself right through Turd College. It'd be slow going, I know. Trump is keeping quiet. Yeah, he hasn't commented, right? But doesn't he take Sundays off normally? Can anybody confirm that? Is Sunday usually he takes one day off, right? It was a weather balloon? Yeah, Sunday's his day off. Anti-seizure sunglasses. How do you know they're anti-seizure sunglasses? Trump letting her implode. Yeah, the best thing that Trump can do today is just stay out of the news, because the minute he talks, they're going to be, shifting the focus to him. But if he just stays out of the news, they got nothing to talk about except this all Sunday night. The anti-seizure sunglasses are confirmed. I could also imagine that would just be a precautionary thing. What's the WikiLeaks October surprise? I don't know, but I'm guessing it's not going to be terribly important. All right, here's what I call a Periscope bonus. I'm going to say something on here that's so fucking crazy, I wouldn't write it down. But I don't mind doing it with the people who spend some time with me here, because I figure you have a pretty high tolerance for ridiculous things. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I'm going to say something that you think is a joke, and then even if you don't laugh because it's not a joke, you're going to wonder if I'm pulling your leg. So I want to tell you in advance, it's not a joke, even if it's funny. That's not why I'm saying it. And I'm not kidding. All right? So here it is. In the 2D world, I call it, where facts matter and people are logical, there are a lot of coincidences, because the world is full of coincidence. So one of those coincidences in the 2D world, where persuasion doesn't matter and people are acting rationally, if that's your filter on the world, you think that Clinton's selection of Tim Kaine, whose last name is literally Kane, is a coincidence that's sort of funny, because it turns out that the candidate he could replace, or the candidate he's supporting, literally, has problems standing on her own, as we saw today. Now, everything about that just says to your 2D rational mind, haha, that is a funny coincidence, but the world is full of coincidence. Let me tell you the 3D filter on this, and I'm completely serious. As soon as I saw that Tim Kaine was going to be the guy, and I had already been talking about her potential health problems, so the question of whether she would need the medical kind of cane was already in my head. I think that, here's how I think it played out. I think that nobody is so smart that when they get this vetted list of potential VP running mates, that everybody looks at it and says, oh yeah, it's definitely this one. If you've ever been in any kind of business, any kind of big meeting, any kind of big decision where everybody's weighing in, that it was a whole bunch of people with different opinions, and it was hard to come to one person who was the best one. And what that means is there were probably several people who made the final round who were all pretty good and good enough. Every one of them would have been good enough. So how do you do the tiebreaker? Well, the tiebreaker is very likely a subconscious, emotional, irrational decision that people are completely not aware of they're making. And I think that her staff sees her as shaky and wobbly, and that the last name Kaine actually did, in a very literal sense, influence their preference for Tim Kaine, because your brain does stupid things. So in no rational world does this make sense. But my claim is that in the 3D world of persuasion, people are persuaded by the sound of things, the look of things, the association of things, whatever thought was in their head just before they had to make a decision. In fact, that's what the book Persuasion is about. Robert Cialdini's new book, which you should all read, by the way. It's called Persuasion, just came out. That tells you that people get primed for decision based on what they're experiencing at the moment. Here's one of the examples they gave. I may not have the details right, but one of the examples that Cialdini gives in his book, Persuasion, is that if you ask somebody to vote between the Democrat and the Republican candidate, and it doesn't have to be Trump or Bush, just any Republican and any Democrat, they're more likely to vote for the Republican if the thing that they had been exposed to before the question was an American flag. Because it turns out, and you could argue why this is true, but it just turns out that people have a stronger association with the American flag with the Republicans. So with no new information added, if you show people the American flag and then say, who do you vote for? And this works better if it's candidates that are, closer in your mind, right? It would work less good with Clinton versus Trump because people sort of have their minds made up. But if you're choosing between two politicians that are Tim Kaine and somebody who's a lot like him, they are chosen by design. They're chosen to be similar. Right? It's a whole bunch of people who are Democrats, senators or governors, congresspeople maybe, who have the same views. And roughly they're, the same level of weight and importance. So of course, when Tim Kaine got into the final five, he was with four other people who were kind of just as good and sort of similar to him. So when you have those situations, and you can't really make a decision based on rational variables because you're just not smart enough, these choices are all too similar, your brain will default to the most irrational thing it can grab onto, whatever's simple and easy, you can understand it right away. And one of the things is his last name is Kaine. And Kaine sounds like exactly what your candidate needs for support. If you think behind the scenes, because her handlers, the people closest to her, probably have the best idea of her health. And you have to imagine that she's a little wobbly, right? Even if you're just saying it's because of her age and her weight and, how busy her schedule is. At that age, everybody's got a bad knee or some damn thing. So you can very much imagine that in their minds, they're thinking she needs a walking device. And so I think the word Kaine probably made as much as a 20% difference in the likelihood that they would pick him. And this is based on studies that you'll see in the book Persuasion, similar kinds of setups, where you've got the setup, and that primes you for the decision to come. And the setup was if Clinton's staff thought that she was a little wobbly on her feet, that set them up, it persuaded them to think that a guy whose last name is Kaine, for some reason that wasn't obvious to them, seemed like a better bet, right? And the reason that I wouldn't write that down is because people would immediately take that out of context. You saw how much context I had to give that to make it even move from ridiculous to, at least some of you I know are saying, is that possible? And, I gave you an actual reference so you can go check and see if things like that have been studied, and you'll find out that they have. So I don't write that stuff down because it can be taken out of context too easily. What's the 3D for Pence? Pence is a good pick on this dimension. A good vice president is someone who, by contrast, makes the person running for president look better. So what you want for vice president is the black and white version that's compared to the full color version of the candidate for president. So if you look at Trump and Kaine next to each other, Pence looks like the black and white, washed out, less interesting, dull version of Trump. And by the way, if you take Trump out of the picture and it's just Pence by himself, he's a completely powerful-looking, successful politician who speaks really well in public. So no matter what else you think of him, he does present himself pretty well. But the moment that Trump walks into the frame with him, he turns into the shadow. You know, he's sort of the weak version of Trump. What's the what's the name of that bullshit science where you dilute the water over and over again until there's nothing in it but the memory of the memory of the chemical? What's the name of that? You know the thing where you keep diluting water? Somebody tell me the name of that. It's like pseudoscience. Homeopathy, thank you. Yeah, homeopathy is where you keep diluting the water until there's nothing but sort of the memory of it. So Pence is sort of the homeopathy version of Trump. He's just the watered down version. So Pence equals fence. Maybe. Plus Trump Pence. Just sounds like it's one big word. I think his last name had nothing to do with his selection in that case, but his look got him into the final five for sure. Kaine looks like Chelsea's father. That's evil. I'll tell you, the person that I feel most sorry for is Tim Kaine, because that poor bastard, that's all he's going to have to do is answer questions about Hillary's health, and he's going to have to make up some fucking bullshit, because, no matter what the truth is, whether it's a bad truth or a not so bad truth, he's going to have to make up something, because they all, the lie is going to be a little bit better than whatever the truth is. So he's going to have to lie. And at the same time, he's going to have to act like he's not happy about the fact he's this close to the presidency, because he went from a few months ago to what? Who's going to be president? What? Seriously? I'm going to be president? Maybe? I'm that close? So it's going to be hard for him to take his own situation out of the analysis. He claps like a seal. That's true. Yeah, they did lie about overheated. Parkinson's is the common thought now. It's the common thought because it's everybody on the internet is saying it. That doesn't make it any more credible. Taleb's criticism of Cialdini. I thought the criticism was a true statement that was not relevant to people buying the book, which is to say, he said that some of the ancient thinkers already knew this stuff. But, the ancient thinkers didn't have access to behavioral studies. They didn't write a book that's very readable and publish it in the year 2016 for all the people who had not read the great thinkers of the 14th century. So while I think I've said this before, that Taleb is on the very short list of people who, if he disagrees with me, the first thing I do is think, what the hell's wrong with me? For other people, I just automatically think there's something wrong with them. It's like, you're disagreeing with me? What the hell's wrong with you? But if somebody like Taleb has a different opinion, my first thought is, uh-oh, shit, I'm wrong. And then I look at what he has to say. I mean, half the time I don't even understand what he's talking about. But not because it doesn't make sense, far more likely because I just don't understand. So here's a question for you. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's a lot of, so 1,500 people on here. Somebody knows the answer to this question, all right? So here's the question. Hillary is has a thyroid issue, I understand, sort of an ongoing, treatable, no big deal thyroid issue. Does anybody know the name of the medicine she takes for it, and what the side effects are of that medicine? Armour is the name of the Armour is the name of a drug? Armour thyroid. Oh, warfarin? Some people are saying Armour, some people are saying warfarin. Armour, Clomid, Leviathan, whatever that is, Euthroid. All right, so it sounds like we don't know, right? By the way, if this times out suddenly, it's because I'm down to my last few seconds of battery. So here's the question. Look up what drug she's taking. It must be public knowledge by now. What drug she's taking for her thyroid, and then look at the list of side effects, and then ask yourself if a person with those side effects would be safe with the nuclear codes. So I know at least one of the thyroid drugs has a side effect of irritability. So is irritability something you want in somebody who's got to make important decisions? Let me ask you this. When you're hungry, do you make the same decisions as when you're not? Trick question, because I already know the answer. You don't, right? That's why you don't go shopping for groceries when you're hungry. So when you're not feeling right, the quality of your decisions drops fairly quickly. In part because you just can't deal with it anymore. You just need to get past it to get to something else. So I would look at her list of meds, and then I would look at the list of known side effects. And that doesn't mean she's having those side effects, by the way. That just means that it's a risk. Yeah, the rumor is that she has a short fuse. So what I'm adding to the conversation is it because of that? Or if you have a short fuse, does it just, get that much worse? Give you a fever. So, she's on meth. So Armour. So somebody look up that Armour. Seems to be a number of people who think that's what it is. Can somebody look that up and just copy paste the short list of side effects? Usually it's in WebMD or something. Warfarin and antibiotics are deadly. It's probably the worst thing in the world for people like us to be talking about medical stuff. But here's the context I would put it in. Since apparently it can be known what drug she's on, if any of them have side effects, that's a fair question, right? Oh, it is Armour. Okay. So, tiredness, seizures. Is that the full list? Just tiredness and seizures? Hair loss, diarrhea, mood swings. Mood swings. That's irritability, isn't it? Nervousness. All right. So there's your headline for tomorrow. Find out what drug she's on and find out if mood swings are part of the, just confirm that that's actually a potential side effect. And remember, I'm not saying she has these, but if we know what meds she's taking and there's some chance of those side effects, the next question is, and you won't find that in WebMD, I don't think, what percentage of people have mood swings because of the drug? Is it one of those things where one person had it once, so they throw it in the list just to be complete? Or is it one of those things where most people report it? Because would you want your commander-in-chief to have mood swings? Now, obviously everybody has a mood swing, right? But if it could be accentuated, and can it? Actually, I don't know if that's true. If you normally have mood swings and you take a drug that has that side effect, does it make your mood swings more dramatic or more often? Or does it have no impact because you were going to mood swing anyway? People need to know, because I don't know. She threw a lamp at Bill. You know, if no one was in the room, it didn't happen. I mean, if no one but the two people who aren't going to tell you. Do I smoke weed? Well, I will tell you that eating it is a bad idea. What happens next? Well, I said earlier today on Periscope that the election is essentially over at this point. Yeah, the phone's plugged in. That's why I'm standing over here. I just plugged it in. I don't think it's possible that you could have somebody have that medical situation on camera at the 9/11 event on the anniversary of 9/11 and have all that associated with the idea of her being commander-in-chief, while in their minds people have been, listen to this word again, persuaded by all the talk of the 9/11 and terrorism and the biggest attack on the homeland. If you pair that thought with the video of, my head is magnificent, thanks, with the thought of her falling over, there's no facts, there's no reasons in the world that will change the result at this point. It's going to get ugly. So let me tell you what's most likely going to happen. Two possibilities. Either she's going to cut back her schedule quite a bit, and in which case our rational minds will say, hey, everybody can get pneumonia. She should take a month off, just maybe do some remotes from her house. Everybody knows who she is. They know her policies. Find another way to make news, tweet a little more, and tell people, hey, I'm going to take a month off. I'll do some minimum amount, but I'm going to get my health back, and then we're just going to nail it in that final month. So if she says something like that, it just won't matter that it makes perfect sense, and nobody rational would really judge her for having a temporary illness that lasts for a few weeks. Especially since every family that's watching this knows somebody in their family who had exactly the same damn thing, and after a few weeks they were just fine, right? None of that's going to matter. What will matter is that for weeks, potentially for weeks, Trump will be out there alone saying she has no stamina. And the reasons why she's temporarily not out there just won't matter. It just won't matter. Your brain will just say, yeah, she's not out there. No stamina. So it will become true by association, by repetition. It will never be true because the facts support it, because pneumonia is one of those things you do get over. But it's not going to look like that. The other possibility is that she goes the other direction and she says, damn it, I'm going to be super strong and show how tough I am. And even though the doctor says I should take it easy, I'm going to go out there and, I'm going to leave it all out on the table. I'm never going to say that maybe I could have done better if I tried harder. All right. So suppose she takes that approach. Then she's just going to fucking die. She'll just fall over during the debate or something. And that could happen, right? Like the odds of her pushing herself too hard under these circumstances seems really good, don't you think? The odds of her trying too hard because, how do you not? The one thing that nobody says about her is that she's not tough. Say what you will about her physical health and stamina, but tough? She's tough as a motherfucker, all right? And I think she's probably already managing her doctors, who are probably already telling her to do less. So if I had to guess, she might lay low for a week, but then I think she's going to push it and try to get my doctor said I should stay in, but, the country needs me. It's an emergency. Otherwise, Trump will be there. I think that she'll push too hard and end up in a few more coughing attacks or, God forbid, falls over again. So I think she has two paths to lose and no path to win right now. Already canceling events. How far out is she canceling events? Trump predicted 9/11 back in 2000. Yeah, I just saw that on the news. It does look like he did that, doesn't he? I mean, he mentioned bin Laden specifically. And he said it was coming soon. That's about as prescient as you can get. So, by the way, remember when I started this old master persuader thing and started talking about Trump in terms of his persuasion skills? What I said from the beginning was that he has a similar tool set to my own, which is why I thought I could see a little deeper into him in terms of just technique, not his inner thoughts, than other people, just because I had the same set of tools. I use those same set of tools for my predictions. And if you see my blog today, you'll see I updated it with how right I was on this Hillary health stuff. I started talking about it in December last year. But my point that I'm going to is that Trump has similar persuasion skills. And as you've watched me use the filter to accurately predict when others couldn't, you should also not be surprised, because I'm not surprised, that Trump, who uses the same tools that you've now watched right in front of your eyes be really good at predicting stuff, is it a surprise that Trump has predicted a few things correctly, such as bin Laden attacking the United States? It's not a surprise, because he's looking at it through the persuasion filter. And yeah, it's more than instincts. So I'll tell you that adorable, deplorable thing really took off. He predicted Brussels and Brexit. Did he predict Brexit? Can you confirm that? Could Trump go head-to-head against Cialdini? Well, that's too hypothetical. Because, Trump's the master of doing it in public, doing it on his feet. Cialdini is an academic, so it's not apples and oranges. By the way, you've heard of yellow journalism? Does everybody know what yellow journalism is? Well, do we now have orange journalism, where the journalists just roll an orange down the aisle to the candidate? So I would call orange journalism the kind where they're not asking any hard-hitting questions. I don't know where Christina is. He predicted Brexit on Pierce. Asian guys writing things? What? Oh, being racist. The orange thing is a long tradition. Yeah, we're going to call it orange journalism from now on. That's when the journalists don't ask hard-hitting questions. They just roll an orange to you. And by the way, it seems to me that there's going to be some public event where a lot of no, my cat is taken care of by someone else. I think there will be some kind of live event where people show up with oranges with questions written on it. It's sort of just going to happen, right? You can almost see it happening. Has CNN contacted you again? I mean, not since today. I just did a print interview an hour ago. Not for CNN, though. Clinton body double today. I saw the pictures, and I do not think that's a body double. The best picture that makes it look like it is a side picture that shows one of the pictures where she has sort of a bump on her nose, sort of like I do. Can you see that? And then the other picture seemed to not be there. But the picture in which it seemed to not be there also seemed suspiciously photoshoppable, if it wasn't actually photoshopped. And my friends with Jake Tapper, we're professional friends, meaning that we don't get together for drinks and coffee, but we do. We've traded a lot of messages, and we did that. Did the project where he drew Dilbert for a week, and he's had me on the show a few times. So I would say we're professional friends, whatever that means. Dilbert the movie. It's sort of on hold. I've lost interest. Will Trump release his tax returns? No, not now, because he's essentially won without doing it. Because the election's largely over now. There's going to be a lot of details between now and election day, and it's not even necessarily true that the polls will show an immediate Trump advantage in the next set of polls. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. It could, but I think there's no chance that Clinton can win now. The falling down, as somebody said, if Clinton can't handle a 9/11 celebration, or observance, how is she going to manage an actual 9/11? And even though that doesn't make any sense, that's not really a logical question. It's the sort of thing that people are going to be imagining. It's what's going to influence them. Let's talk about Trump and Putin. All right, I'm going to give you a take on that I don't think you've heard. I've talked about this in other contexts. It's something called pacing and leading. Now, pacing and leading is where you act like the person you want to influence. You breathe the way they do, you talk the way they do, you move the way they do, until they start getting really comfortable with you. Because there's no one we love more than ourselves. So if another person acts like you act in material ways, especially anything that's visual, people will start thinking, well, there's not that much difference between me and you. It makes no sense, but it's fairly well demonstrated. So if you pace people in any way, you're in a better chance later to influence them. So if you were trying to persuade Putin, and I can't think of anything that would be more important to the safety of the world right now. The one person you'd want to persuade would be Putin, to get him on your side for the fight against ISIS in particular. And if for no other reason than to avoid World War III, right, accidentally. So if you were trying to persuade Putin, would you say, Putin, you despicable mess, do what we say, or else? I don't know Putin, but I got a television, and I got a feeling that's not going to fucking work. If anything, it's going to embolden him to say, no, damn it, they're treating me with disrespect. I can't run this country disrespected, so now I have to conquer some little fucking country or something just to show that I'm not doing what America tells me to do. Compare that to Trump's attempts. Trump is a persuader. So he says, hypothetically, to Putin, hey, you're a good guy. I don't care what you do that doesn't affect us. All right? Just don't do it too loudly to the point where we just have to intervene. Run your country, work with us. We're not enemies. Then what do you get out of Putin then? Then when he's eyeing some little territory that maybe in other times he would take over, he's got something to lose. Because if the United States and Trump, let's say he's president, says, you know, Putin's actually a legitimate, strong leader and you're glad to have him, what does Putin want more than that? All right. So, and why would you need to like demonstrate your strength by conquering some piss-ass territory? You don't need to prove anything. Once you have that sort of that seal of approval that somebody says, yeah, you're fine, you know, stay where you are, keep running Russia, then you have paced them. And then when you need to influence them, you're in a much better position. So if you're asking me who's more likely to influence Putin, and there's no contest. It's the person who said he's doing a good job. Every time. It's not the person who said he's a dick. Because the person who says he's a dick, you don't really have any tools, you know. It's Russia. They got a nuclear arsenal. You're not going to, do sanctions against them. You're not going to, you're just not going to, fuck with Russia too much. So when Clinton says she's just not being rational. It just isn't going to happen. Or, let me correct that. She's probably totally rational, and she may have just decided that this stance is better persuasion. But in terms of actually running the country, you want the one who wants to have a joke with Putin, and the two of them get along great, and whoever that is. So yeah, if you want, and look at what Trump is proposing with North Korea. So our current thing is, hey, North Korea, we're going to slap some sanctions on you. We're going to do all kinds of shit. And Trump is saying, because he's a persuader, remember, this is the persuader's way. He changed the frame. He's not the first one to suggest this, but he changed the frame and he said, it's China's problem. Much in the same way that Kennedy said, Cuba and Russia, or the Soviet Union, Cuba, if you've got missiles that came from the Soviet Union and you fire them at us, we're at war with the Soviet Union. So he reframed it. That's what Kennedy did. And that was a successful reframe. If Trump manages to reframe North Korea as basically just China's dingleberry, then he can put sanctions on China, right? And then China, if they don't want those sanctions, they have to put some kind of pressure on North Korea. And then why in the world does North Korea, aim their missiles at us? We could just say, hey, dudes, we're pulling out. We're going to get out of South Korea. It's too expensive anyway. They've got tons of weapons. And by the way, if you shoot it, if you're going to use your nuclear weapons, there's nothing we can do anyway except die. If it's a nuclear war, just everybody dies. So why be there? And if there's not going to be a nuclear war, South Korea is fine. Nobody's going to invade South Korea. They got a pretty good military there. This is hilarious. Hilarious good or hilarious bad? Had to reframe Iran. I'll tell you how. Iran, and you're going to hate this. So right now, both candidates are treating Iran the same way, largely the same. Clinton's a little friendlier, Trump's a little more hard-ass. I think that the real enemy, according to Trump, is Saudi Arabia, in the sense that they may be supporting the worst of the worst and the terrorists. If you were to look at Iran's record, they support terrorism sort of in the area, meaning if it's in their backyard, and you fucked with them, like overthrowing their government recently, for example, or that sort of thing, or sparking a war with their neighbor, they're going to come after you hard. But it's been a long time, and Iran has had a lot of capability. And if they were planning to attack the homeland, or here, or if they were planning to spread Islam to here, you'd see a lot more, Iranian Shia terrorists who are operating overseas. Where you've seen Iran operate, it was regional, and you could argue that a country of that size needs to flex its muscle, and if you fuck with it on its home court, they're going to have to hit you back, even if terrorism is how you do it. Now, Iran and Israel's problems are kind of a special case. There's nothing really like that in the world, as far as I know. But recently, Iran and Israel don't seem to be making a lot of noise at each other, unless I'm missing it. So it seems to me that probably behind the scenes, Israel, Iran, and the United States, at least, are allies already. But none of us can tell our own citizens that. So in other words, if you're the government, you know that what's best is that those three countries decide not to attack each other and not screw with each other too much. Every politician in those countries knows that's the case. But they also know they can't sell it to their own population. So it's a sort of a dilemma. We're all allies behind the scenes? Probably not. But I think Iran and Israel and the United States probably are. They just can't admit it. Oh yeah, put Christina on. Does nobody want to hear me anymore? They just want to see Christina. What do you make of Trump retweeting Obama? That was pretty funny. I mean, no, she's not puzzled. You saw, I think you saw the tweet, most of you. What was the tweet? What was Obama's tweet? Oh, you don't want a president who doesn't like half of the country? And then tweet it. And then Trump just retweeted it. How truthful are the polls? I don't know, they're probably pretty close. But I'm still saying that there's going to be a lot of hidden Trumpers, and I think the polls will just, from this point on, it's just going to be a widening gap with Trump on top. I mean, I think he has to pull ahead in some polls, which he will do fairly soon, maybe in 2 weeks. Do I have the most popular Periscope profile? I don't think so. I think there are a lot of people who have more. I am unmarried with girlfriend, as far as I know. Is there an enthusiasm gap? Yeah, gigantic one. She will not throw in the towel. I think she's there till the end. You'd like to see me debate Nate Silver? I would lose that debate because he's way smarter than me. How much was your coffee maker? I don't know. It was like 8 years ago I bought that. How many illegitimate kids do I have? I have no biological children. Interested in VR? Yes. What brand t-shirt? Usually American Rag, but I've got just my workout clothes on right now. Financial collapse? Nothing's financially collapsing. Do you read a lot of books? I do not. I prefer the summaries on the internet. Edibles are dangerous because you can't tell how much is in them. People who smoke can feel it as they go. But all the people who have had, generally speaking, here's a pattern you can look for. If somebody says, so-and-so had a terrible experience on marijuana, blah, blah, blah. You almost always can trace that story back to edibles. What you never hear is somebody smoked too much and flipped out. It just isn't a thing. Yeah, they label them. If you're buying them from a reputable source, I suppose they'd be labeled. Kratom, I don't have an opinion on that. I'm not well informed on kratom. Kelly Lee has a crush on me. Reading chemistry is bad. Chemistry make you psychic. You're herbed up? Not right now. Yeah, I would go on Joe Rogan. A lot of people ask, but it's up to him. I'm easy to find if he wants to. Opinion on Game. I haven't read the books, but if it involves persuasion, there's something to it, I'm sure. You get paranoid on weed. You know that's dependent on the type, right? So if you go to online sources, you can find out what strain creates what kinds of symptoms, and some of them do make you paranoid, and others have far less of that effect. You still want a truck? No, I gave up on the truck. Theranos, I'm not really following that. Can you persuade her? Why are half of the questions about someone who isn't actually here with me? Apparently I'm not as interesting as anybody who is attractive. But especially her, I suppose. Will she sit in the debates? Probably. Oh, the Huffington Post is going with that she's badass. So here's the thing: if you're defying doctor's orders, yeah, that's sort of badass. It's also bad judgment. Eurozone, no. Speaking engagements in Arizona, I don't have any lined up. I'm a damn handsome man, thank you. I brought one on myself. She had 2 doctors with her today. Well, that makes perfect sense, since she had actually been diagnosed with having a medical condition. My friends with Cialdini. We've traded some messages just on Twitter. I understand, Ben Betty. Why do I make the choo-choo noise? It's sort of my time-killing sound. I go choo-choo-choo. So you're wondering if the Secret Service guy, the big African-American guy who was always with her, is a doctor. I think they probably all have medical training. I would think that would be a requirement of being a Secret Service person, at least, emergency training. I don't use as much self-hypnosis now because I just don't need it, but it's available. Does Jill Stein have a prayer? Yes, her prayer goes like this: Dear God, I hope I get at least 10 votes. Otherwise, no. Favorite persuasion technique? Oh, I love them all. It depends on the situation, right? The technique has to match the situation. What type of president will Trump be? No way to know. In fact, there's no way to know how well either one of them will do, because doesn't it really matter on what events unfold? All right, I'm going to have to go. It's terrific talking to all of you 3 times today. For some of you, that's way too much of me. You're going to have to take some time off. Try to wean yourself off of my periscopes. But there's a pretty good chance I'll see you again tonight before bed. All right. See you later.